Today I'm going to show you guys how to make an emo rap type beat. For this particular tutorial, it'll be targeted mainly towards beginners. I'm going to walk you through this step by step as if you've never made an emo rap type beat before. If you want some more in-depth production techniques, make sure to check out some of the other videos on my channel. And if you like emo rap type beats, I have 1,000 like them also on my YouTube channel. But let's get this started. So we are going to be using a loop today because again, we're tackling this from the perspective of a complete beginner. My favorite place to look for loops is Looperman. Just search it into Google and go to Looperman. I like to use this advanced search feature, and for keywords I'm just going to put guitar. So what we're looking for is either an acoustic or an electric guitar that gives off melancholy or dark vibes. So nothing super like plucky and dancey, something kind of slow and morbid. So I'm going to use this one here that I found. Shout out Basement Kid. One of the reasons I am using a loop for this too is so that you guys can follow along using this exact same loop and copy exactly what I do just to get some of these techniques down. So we're just going to download this, and then to get your file into FL Studio, you just have to drag it right in like that. And you'll see on the sample page there's a couple details here, and you're going to need to make some note of these. So you'll see it's 150 BPM and the key is D sharp minor. So those are the two main things that you're going to need. So on the BPM, where it's 150, we're going to change this to correspond to the same BPM. And you'll see if I press play in FL Studio now, we have the loop playing in there. Alright, there's one more thing we're going to need to grab before we can make this beat. Again, if you've never made an emo rap type beat before, I'm guessing you're not going to have any emo rap drum kits. One of the best places that you can find drum kits is in fact on Reddit and r/drum kits. I'm going to try out this Halo drum kit trap/emo. Essentially what an emo rap type beat is a melancholy guitar with sort of trap like drums. It can vary a lot and it's a very broad genre, but basically anything that gives off a sad melancholy vibe or a dark vibe but has that signature trap bounce, I would consider emo rap. Maybe you have a different definition of it. So I have a folder here set up for all my sound kits. While you don't have to have one that's this extensively organized, it definitely will help you down the road. So I'm going to drag this one into the emo rap one, and then I'm just going to extract all, and then I'm just going to delete that zip because I won't need that anymore. Alright, now we have our loop and all the drum sounds that we are going to need to make this beat. So I'm going to show you step by step and we're going to crank one out. So there's a few elements to these emo rap type beats that I like to add first, just to kind of get your brain feeling musical and get kind of a vibe going on. So we're going to drag some of these in here. The first one I'm going to do is a hi-hat sound. Just a basic one like this will do great, and we're going to fill each 2 steps. And then I'm just going to select the pattern up top here and click into the playlist, and that'll place our pattern into the playlist with the sample. And if I press play, you'll see we now have the sample playing as well as those hi-hats. Alright, so hopefully you're getting the gist of this now. You see the kind of techniques we're going to be using to add new sounds into our beat. So let's do a few more. The next sound we're going to add is a kick, something like this one, and we're going to add a clap sound. Maybe something like this one here. And you can be pretty creative with these drum patterns, but there's a pretty basic drum pattern that I like to start my emo rap type beats with, and I'll show you that now. You can just copy down what I'm doing. So that's our kick, and our clap will go here. Now I'm going to press play and show you what that sounds like. And there you have it. Only a few minutes in, you can tell we already kind of got the vibe and the bounce going for what this beat's gonna be. Let's keep adding some more detail. So this BPM is a little bit fast for what I usually do emo rap type beats with. So to kind of slow the feel of it down, I'm actually gonna change the hi-hat from a 2-step pattern to a 4-step. I'm gonna right click and go to the graph editor. And on every second one, we're just going to lower the velocity down on it a bit like that. I'm going to make sure this hi-hat is on its own track. I usually do the hi-hats on channel 2. And while we're in here, we're going to put this melody on channel 1, our kick onto channel 3, and delete any of these other sounds we don't need. We're going to right click on the hi-hat, open up the piano roll, and from here we can customize our hi-hat pattern a bit deeper. We can add some rolls, some things like that. So to add a hi-hat roll, what we're going to do is click on where you want to add it, drag it out to the length that you want it to be, and then if we zoom in here, you'll see every beat is cut up into these segments. So these segments are going to be how fast your hi-hat roll is. And to change that, what we're going to do is click on this. We're going to click on this magnet up here and change it to 1/4 beat. And you'll see that that got rid of some of the lines. To turn it into a roll, what we're going to do is select it by holding Control and dragging, then hit Control U, and that'll split it up like so. We're going to delete these hi-hats that were already there and just move this one back down into there. And I'll press play just to show you what it sounds like, and then we'll mess around with it some more. So I don't really like where that hi-hat roll is, so we're just going to play around with this. We're going to add another one right in here. And for this one, we're going to make it faster, so we're going to click back up on this magnet and go to 1/2 step, Control U, just like last time. And let's move one of these up a little bit. Maybe not that much. So I would say that's pretty good for our hi-hat pattern. You can be super flexible with this in your emo rap type beats. You can go from super simple hi-hat patterns to really complex ones. They all kind of work. My main suggestion though would be the higher your BPM, the more simple the hi-hat pattern. Let's carry on. So one thing I'm noticing now is when the clap hits, it's a bit soft. So we're going to add a snare sound as well. Just a simple one like this. We'll put the clap and the snare onto track 4, and we're going to make up a little snare pattern here. That just kind of adds some more bounce. Next we'll add an open hat. I like to turn the open hat down a lot. It can be really overpowering if you don't. And you're also going to want to make sure it plays on the same notes as your hi-hat typically. So now that we have both our hi-hat and our open hat pattern, and we have them both routed to channel 2, we're going to go click on channel 2 and add some effects to these hi-hats. Really basic for hi-hats, you don't want to do too much. All I'm going to do is add an EQ, boost these high sounds a tiny little bit. That'll just kind of make it crispier and like ring out the high end a little bit more. And then to kind of counter that, I'll turn it down a little bit more, and we'll add just the tiniest little bit of reverb. So I'll just add the default Fruity Reverb plugin, and we'll turn it way down to about 5 to 10%. This isn't something that you have to do. This just kind of, in my opinion, softens the hi-hats a little bit for these emo rap type beats so they don't sound so like clicky. We're almost done with the basic drum pattern here, but next we'll add one of the most important elements, of course, the 808s. Super common and in my opinion overused 808, but just for tutorial's sake, I'll use the Spins 808. I'm guessing a lot of you watching are familiar with this sound, and it'll probably help you out to know how to use it. So this is where I get to show you my favorite trick ever. So on our main melody we have here, this initial loop we have, we're gonna add a plugin here called Wave Candy. Click on this spectrum tab at the bottom and turn the scale knob all the way up. Drag this window out so that you can see what's going on. What's going to happen is you'll press play, and what you're seeing is the exact frequencies that are being played in that loop. Frequencies on the very bottom is going to be your bass notes. So now with your 808s selected and the piano roll open, you're going to click play on the melody and follow the notes that are being played on the Wave Candy plugin, like so. Second time this melody plays, instead of B at the end, it actually goes up to an F sharp. We'll add a couple extra notes in here. We'll change the octave on these, and we just gotta fix it over here because it's playing twice now. Alright, so there's all our basic drum sounds laid out in our channel rack. We're gonna right click on the pattern 1 up here and go split by channel. This will split it up into all different channels over here, which will help you organize the beat. You can delete this one you had initially, and we'll re-add them all in here like so. And what you'll see now is you have 2 clearly distinct parts, one part with no drums and one part with all the drums. The part with all the drums is going to be your hook, and now we're going to structure a verse that's going to go afterwards. So for this verse, I'm just going to take some of these elements here from the hook. like the kick we'll start with, then let's add in the clap, and then maybe halfway the hi-hats and the open hats come in, and the clear difference between the hook and the verses will be the lack of 808s and the snare. Then we're going to copy and paste this whole thing over, and since we have a pretty high BPM, the beat is only 1 minute and 55 seconds so far, so we'll add a second verse. So what you're looking at now is a very basic structure of the whole beat. One thing that's pretty apparent just by looking at this is the fact that it's going to be really repetitive, especially the melody. So I'm going to show you a few quick tricks to counteract that. Let's move this down to give some room for ourselves to work with here. The first thing we're going to do is add a whole different top melody using this initial one. So just hold shift and drag and that'll create a copy. Right click on the top left little button here and go make unique. Double click to open it up. Send it to a different track. I'm going to send it to track 10. Now click on track 10 and we're going to add a few plugins here to kind of switch it up. We'll add a bit crush. Make sure you turn it way down. We'll add a reverb. Also turned way down. Here comes the sauce. We're gonna add this plugin here called Gross Beat, and we're gonna choose one of these patterns here. Something like this one. We can always change it after. And double click on the loop again. This pitch knob, turn it all the way up. I'll play just that for you to see what we just made. So that'll switch up the beat flow. But obviously something like that's gonna be really overpowering the way it is now. So we're gonna turn the volume down. I'm actually going to add some distortion on here, something like that. Let's play it all together and see if it sounds good. Still a bit overpowering. All we got to do is turn it down. And it comes across as a bit fast. So we're going to add another effect here. We're going to add another gross beat. And we're going to go to presets, right click here, momentary, go to half speed. Pretty self-explanatory. It's going to slow it down to half speed. Let's try it out. So here's just this background pattern we've been working on again. That's way more like what we're looking for. And that's just going to play in the second half of each hook. So that's our first little variant. We're going to do one more little variant here. We're going to go back to our main sample here. So track 1. Use this Gross Beat plugin again. As I'm sure you can tell, Gross Beat is absolutely fundamental in making emo rap type beats. If you're looking to make an emo rap type beats, I'm guessing you're familiar with like Lil Peep and Juice WRLD. I can tell you right now that most of Peep's producers used Gross Beat all the time. So yeah, Gross Beat. And that completely changed the vibe of the whole beat. And you know what, I actually kind of like it, especially for this tutorial's sake. I think this is more the vibe I was aiming for, so we're just going to stick with it. Plus, it shows the fundamental part of making music, which is experimenting. Sometimes you just gotta try different things. Sometimes it'll sound good, sometimes it won't. Just play around with it, have some fun. So I also think this hook is going to be a bit boring, just playing the same 4 bars over and over. So we're going to do another hi-hat pattern in here to change it up a bit. All right, I'd say that's pretty good for like the layout and the structure of our beat. Got all the sounds we want. We got it laid out. Got a rough mix. We got some variations. Now the last thing we're gonna add is like some nitty-gritty details, like risers, impacts, transitions, and beat cuts. It sounds like a lot, but I'll take you through it. We got this. Riser sound. All right, to make this riser sound, we're gonna use a crash. We're going to reverse it and make sure it lines up exactly with where this beat cuts out. Turn it way down, and you can add it to the same channel as your hi-hats if you'd like. Let's take a listen. And we'll just add that same thing in before every single one of these hooks here. Make sure we have those cuts. And if you want, you can add this clap sound. Cut them all out so that there's just the one clap hits before the hook. We'll add this crash back in actually, make it unique, and have this as the impact that kind of introduces the new hook. Add a few more of them in, and you'll notice we still have this empty space here. What is this, you ask? Well, it's our second verse, and as such we're going to need to find a drum pattern that is quite a bit different from this one, just so that we have sort of an A section and a B section to this beat. I'm going to create a whole new pattern up here, and let's make something. Add some 808s to it. Alright, that's a pretty good little second verse and bridge sort of thing. We're almost done, I swear. On our main melody, we're going to add one more plugin called Fruity Love Filter. We're going to make sure it's on the default setting. Right click on the knob beside it and go create automation clip. I'm going to make sure I'm on the bar setting and we're gonna adjust automation clip by right clicking. I'm gonna make my automation clip like this. You can then add in your beat tag if you have one. And we're gonna add one last little effect on here. Find your 808 pattern, copy it onto a new pattern. And I'm just gonna use like a one-shot sound and copy my 808 pattern onto it. And we're gonna put that in the second verse here, as well as the second half of each hook. And that'll do it. That's the whole beat. Congrats on making your first Emo Rap Type beat. I'm glad I could help. Make sure you subscribe and we'll do many more of these together. Leave a comment if there's any specific tutorials that you're wanting to see. And sit back and let's listen to what we made.